Hi, everyone, and welcome to Lurking for Legends, a live video cast where my awesome co-host, epic fantasy author Richard H. Stevens, and I speak with people from all walks of the publishing industry. Lurking for Legends is a live interactive broadcast, and we encourage viewers to chime in with questions for our guests or simply make comments on what you hear in the show. So tonight we have fantasy author and cover designer Nicole Conway. Welcome, Nicole. How are you?
I'm good. Hi, thank you for having me.
Wonderful to have you. And of course, we're hearing multi-talented. You do both. You do both fantasy writing, and you do your own covers. You have a business where you do covers.
Mm-hmm. I do, and I do occasionally make my own. But for some stuff, I do like to still hire out just because pay it forward.
Yeah, sure. So tell us a little bit about your books and yourself as an author.
Okay, so my career started, and it's one of those things you have to asterisk as like, this will not apply to everyone, because I kind of actually did it things sort of backwards in the way that they tell you it never works out. I self-published my first book, Fledgling, back when self-publishing was extremely frowned upon. About 6 years ago, when it was just becoming a thing. I had always just kind of, I've liked to write books since I was little, and I wanted to write a series of books just kind of for fun, and I could do the art, so I just did all the formatting and everything myself. Uploaded it for 99 cents, and overnight it was, I was one of Amazon's top selling authors. I sold 10,000 copies in, I think that was the first month. I sold 30, it was this consistent, it was 30,000 copies the first 3 months that it was out, which back then was unheard of. And I had tried to do trad. I had done the whole, query process and hadn't really gotten any traction, and it was beginning to be like, well, maybe this isn't for me, because this isn't what I went to school for, and I just want to do this because it's fun. And so after that, Fledgling started to get noticed, and I was getting approached by agents asking if I had representation, if anybody had helped me do foreign rights. I was approached by a lady from Hachette wanting French rights, and so from that I got an agent and started a writing career that I sort of stumbled into that, and so 6 years later I've been through a lot. I've now 16, soon to be, I think at the end of this year I'll hit the 20 title mark. And I'm still considered hybrid. I do a lot of self-publishing, but I do a lot of trad too. And most of my books are teen to upper middle grade. Just about all of them have dragons in them, because I love fantasy. I love writing fantasy, epic fantasy, and urban fantasy. Some of them are, and that's kind of my thing. I've dabbled in other stuff, but I always come back to what I love, which is fantasy. So
that's an amazing story. That's kind of like what every author wishes would happen. You put up this book, you don't think much of it, and bam, loads of sales. That's incredible.
That sounds amazing. It's amazing, yeah. So all your fantasy series, you say you're hybrid. So which ones are you self-publishing, and how do you find that's going? Do you find that working better for you? Is this giving a different audience, or what is the benefit of doing hybrid?
So it was, once again, everything I feel like in my career has kind of been thrust upon me. I actually almost 2 years ago now, so no, I guess it is about 1.5 years ago, I went through a rights reversion, because originally I was completely trad. And then had a rights reversion, had a parting of the ways with a publisher, and got all of my titles back from my Dragonrider series. And at the time, I only had 2 series out, Chronicles, which fledgling, my first one was from, and Dragonrider Legacy, which is the second series. And I had planned these books. Publishers are a little daunted with publishing, committing to long series. So I always had to scale things way back. I had to, they want like 3, maybe 4 books in a series, and that's it, and they're done. Because it's a commitment, So I had originally planned a 3rd series, and I had written all of these books out to be what I call a multi-entry point. So each series is they're in the same world. There's a lot of the same characters. They are chronological, but you can read the first series, or you can start with the second one and go back to read the first series. You don't have to read, the series in order. But the new series, I had everything planned out because it was going to be trad. Then the rights reversion happened, and the first book hadn't been released yet. And so and this is like in the April of the pandemic, like, I'm flailing. I'm trying to figure out how self-publishing works again, because I haven't done it since, way back. And I had been doing covers, thankfully, so I knew how to do that. I was like, okay, I can do that part. But I hired a PA, I hired an editing team, and I was like, okay, I'm going to go to work, and this is going to be a job, and I'm going to be my own, we're going to put my big girl pants on and be a real boss, and did it. But I had to read that whole 3rd series. I met with my PA, and he's been fantastic, and he has great advice for indie authors, and he's like, you need to quit breaking your books up. Now that you're indie, you need to, he's like, you have these very loyal fans that have followed all of your dragon books. You need to just quit breaking them up. If they're chronological, just write one long series for this last one. And I was like, ooh, okay, I maybe can restructure. I maybe can put back in some of the things I had to cut out for length. Some of the longer character arcs and side stories and things. And so I took what was going to be a 3-book series, and now it's a 10-book series, and I'm super excited because we're on book 3 comes out in June. So that's sort of how that happened. But I still have I have the Spirits of Chaos, which is an urban fantasy, teen urban fantasy that is still trad. So
yeah. It's so interesting, isn't it, how it's so different on both sides. Traditional publishers don't want to take too much of a chance by promising they'll publish this really long series. They're willing to just drop if it's not working at the moment. And then versus self-publishing, it's kind of like the longer the series, the better, especially with fantasy. People love it, so it is kind of a crazy opposite. You would never think that it could be so opposite, but
yeah.
So I met you, I don't know where I met you. Obviously I met you on Facebook through your cover group, and I'm not sure how I got onto that, but since I remember you had a big sale a while ago.
Oh yeah.
That's how I got onto you. And so if you notice the wall behind me, anyone who's watched these sessions beforehand, that wall is full of pictures. So I've taken pictures down that you've actually done. So a bunch of my pictures are now, they're interior pictures, and a couple are covers. And there's one cover there that she did for me.
Oh, I loved that one.
It doesn't have the text on it. And then here's the other one that we kept going back and forth with Soar.
Yeah,
that's
I
awesome.
Loved that one too.
Yeah.
That was a good.
So, and then I got all these little, and I've got a lot of them. I won't keep showing all of them, but these are all these pictures that you've done for. These are all my interiors now. So those first 2 are covers, and then I've got another couple interiors on here, and they're just great. And they've had so much depth to my book. So I was really appreciative when I found you on Facebook. So that being said, do you put interior pictures in your own books?
Some I do. So it's kind of low key. I kind of keep it on the low key, but I do write under a pen name for sci-fi, and because those books are a bit more adult and graphic, I don't do it under Nicole because I don't want to. I have a lot of young readers, and then I have a lot of adult. So I don't want to shock anyone, unhappy, in a bad way. And sci-fi, you just tend to be a little bit more competitive in a gender neutral or different name. So I do put pictures in that one. And I actually, that was my first time trying that, and I actually really like it. So I haven't done it with the Dragonrider books. But I have another fantasy series that I'm planning that will be the next, after this one ends. I will start a whole new clean slate, new world, new everything. And I think I might, because there's a lot of visuals in this series that I feel like are going to be kind of hard for people to get what I'm talking about unless I show it literally. So that may be a good time and excuse to pull in some graphics there. Because it was really fun. I've had to learn how to do all this formatting stuff and in Vellum, and I was like, I don't want to mess it up, but I'm getting braver with it.
Well, that's certainly good, of course. The more you can do yourself, the better it is in some ways. Obviously, your time is precious, and the most important part is the writing. But still, as an indie author, obviously, it's great to be able to do as much as you can. And I did notice, since you mentioned age, that on your Nicole Conway website, you have ratings for books, which is PG-10, PG-18, and PGR. I'm not sure if you have anything PGR on there right now.
Mad Magic, I believe, is definitely an older teen, more in the vein of like Sarah J. Maas with the violence and some, adult content. So like to say Zeph is my problem child. He's one of the main characters in that book, and I cannot count on him to be appropriate ever. So, yeah.
Along those lines, I noticed that on your site, you have an area called Teaching Resources. And I just wanted to read it for anybody out there who's looking for this kind of thing. If you don't mind, just for a second, it says, looking for something epic and dragon-filled to add to your students' reading schedule. All of my Dragonrider series and Spirits of Chaos series are excellent tools for introducing, teaching about, and discussing important social issues like bullying, family relationships, and how their actions can change the world and people around them. I'm happy to offer additional activities, materials, and discussion questions for parents and teachers looking to make my books an educational experience. And I also noticed on the website that it says, a former homeschool student, I'm happy to offer, additional resources and stuff. So is this something that you sort of wanted to do when you wrote the book and you kind of integrated it in there? Or did you just realize, like, I've written this book and actually it could be used in schools?
So I wouldn't say it was intentional. It was just kind of because, so I went to school, I went to college to teach. I wanted to be a Latin teacher. Then I married a fighter pilot. And so, yeah, move every 2 years. You can't be a teacher. And so I think it just is kind of, it's been trained into me to make things of like that. And my mom is a teacher, and then I was homeschooled, and then I ended up having to homeschool my son. So I started doing that with the second series, and I went back and added some for the first one. It just made sense, I guess. It felt like I should do it. And then I actually had a lot of teacher friends ask me if I had any, because they would want to buy a classroom set, and they would ask if I had any materials to go with it. And I was like, no, but give me a week and I'll come up with some stuff for you. Because I was, I did education classes and stuff, and I thought, I can come up with some things. I can do that. And which I love. I love it when teachers can take books that are current and sometimes more accessible and relevant to kids. And make that an educational, or even just, because education can happen anywhere, but I think for each book I have a list of discussion questions, because my favorite English class, we would all kind of sit in a circle, and then my teacher had discussion questions. So we would read the book, or he would say, okay, read up to this point, and then we're going to discuss it. And so instead of like diagramming and all that horrible, horrible stuff that English teachers make you do sometimes, he invited instead for us to think more deeply about it in a shared way. And that's kind of what I wanted to do with that. So
I wish there had been more dragons in my own curriculum. There just weren't any at all.
Me too.
Me too. I think that's a brilliant idea. So that just kind of happened on the fly. It didn't purposely set out to do that. It just, and are you getting a lot of uptake with it from places where you are?
I actually do, more than I thought I would. I teach a lot of writing classes for free online, and because of my background and then doing that, I've gotten kind of plugged into the local homeschool communities. And they are the ones that are super hungry for ways to take, because if you have a kid who is an avid reader, and as a homeschool parent, you have, I guess, more control over how you can flex the curriculum to let them read where their interest is. And so instead of forcing, a classic down their throat that they're just not engaging with, you can take something from a genre they enjoy and still pull those things, those important themes and things you want to discuss from it. So you still get the end result that you want. And I know that I was an English and classics major, and my professors are like, they're probably, they can feel it right now that I'm going to say this, but the classics are not always the best tools, I think, for teaching certain things, especially with today's kids. We are become so far removed from some of the things that are in there that it's unrelatable to kids. Like, I don't know if y'all had to read Where the Red Fern Grows, but first of all, that book was traumatic. Second of all, I don't know many kids who still go out and hunt raccoon, and I'm from Alabama, and I still don't know that many kids who, as young children, go out and hunt or skin raccoons themselves, and it's very graphic. But of course, the theme of the book is more about the boy's relationship with his hunting dogs and the responsibility of caring for them, I believe one of them gets severely injured, and he has to, it's a very labor intensive process. It's not like Old Yeller, the dogs die in the end, but he's trying to save it, and he's doing all of this, sometimes you do everything right and it still doesn't work out type book, but there's other things you can do to teach that is maybe more relatable across the board to people. So, haha, I love that.
That was cute.
Definitely true. I totally agree that there's so much stuff that, sometimes it's great to learn the classics and to understand in time before yourself and things like that. But at the same time, especially when you're younger, like I get that more in maybe high school, especially college. But then when you're younger and you're reading these things that you don't understand at all, and it's not so much, explaining it to you as trying to get you to, pick up on certain types of themes or whatever it may be. And you do feel removed, and it can be more confusing than anything. So I do definitely agree with you in that. Even as an English literature major as well, I agree with you there.
Yep.
So I know that you said you have some series that are connected, I think. And then I noticed that there is the Dragonrider Chronicles, the Dragonrider Legacy, and the Dragonrider Heritage. So one of these is, I guess, the one that's going to be 10 books long, or are they just, okay, so one of them. And then are all of them going to keep going, or are any of them finished?
So Chronicles is finished, Legacy is finished, and Heritage is the one that I'm currently, I think book 3 comes out in June. And I think the book 4, we bumped it back to December or January. Well, because moving has thrown off my entire work schedule. Like, I'm just now getting back into the groove of my usual like 5K a day writing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so behind. But it's okay. We're getting it back, and that one, yeah, that one will be the one that's 10 books long. So I've gotten so I've got 7 more to go, but those books are actually really easy for me to write. World building is done for it, and now I'm just playing. The world is established. It's 3 series deep. I am now in. I was talking to one of my you always have like your fans, and then you have your super hardcore fans, and it was one of those people, and I was like, I can't believe I'm like 4 generations deep into this world now. Like I'm bringing back characters, and I'm like, oh, that person's like, maybe I should let them retire from the series now. They're like in their 80s. Maybe they're ready for retirement. But that's the one, and I'm really excited to have it be such a long series, because before I was having to cap things and stay within just the world of Maldabar, which is the kingdom that it takes place in. But now I'm actually getting to open it up to the other kingdoms that I wasn't going to have time to explore, and that makes me so excited.
So we got a couple comments coming in here. We're just with the book you were mentioning before. Anita Stewart says she loved the red fern grows, but it's traumatic, and she doesn't like the chapter with the axe death in that book. I've never heard of it myself. I'm from Canada. That might make the difference. And then Wanda Janaway chimes in, and I know she's from Canada because that was one of my favorite childhood.
It was so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was traumatic for me because I've always been just like a super animal lover. Like, we've always had just a bouquet of pets, and so reading about that, I was like, and I grew up in Alabama where my dad was, he was a hunter, so I was exposed to that kind of stuff, and it was still traumatic. Like, yeah, that one was rough. And then we watched the movie, and that just made it even worse. It's like I didn't need the visual too. Thanks.
Does not sound pleasant.
No, so if you have a child who's very tender-hearted towards animals, handle that book with caution.
Maybe I won't.
Spoiler, like, maybe give that one a few years.
So your cover business. Now, this is something that. How did that come about? I know you kind of touched on that, but this is something that happened after your writing, correct?
Yes. So I've actually worked in graphic art and design for a while, but mostly in the corporate world. I would do branding and logos, and I worked for a company in Tucson for a while, and so I had done the corporate side of it, which is, I enjoyed the challenge, and I learned a lot about how to work in that, what the expectations are for working in the corporate world. And but I've always liked to paint and to draw, and it's the only thing I ever got in trouble for in school was drawing in class. And it was dragons. Woo! So yeah, so I started doing it just kind of for friends, and then friends of friends, and then friends of friends of friends, and then people were like, you should have a group, and then I had a group, and then they're like, you should make pre-mades, and I'm like, what's that? And so it just kind of has grown from there, and I have thought about taking it again and trying to apply it more corporately, like launching an official business with it, because right now I still just kind of freelance it, and I don't know, I am so afraid to commit to it because I enjoy it so much. I don't want to take something that I really enjoy and make it stressful. And so I've done some work for publishers. I've done some work for big name authors, both trad and indie. and I enjoy that, but I'm also like, do I want, so I don't know. Right now I'm still just having fun with it. I still take on just a very limited number of clients every month to work with, because I don't want to overstress about it, and I am still supposed to be writing. So, so I usually limit it to three or four people a month. I'll make a cover for, might sneak a pre-made in there if I have time, but that's just kind of how I've taken that. And I don't know, if I run out of books to write, I guess I can just make covers.
3 or 4 covers a month, that's still quite the undertaking. Because I started to try to do that myself. I got the DAS program and all that stuff, trying to do my own, and it didn't quite go as well as I thought it was going to be, so I just make my own interiors now. But they are time consuming.
They are, and I get told a lot that I work fast. I think that I mostly I could easily become a workaholic, and I will, like, my son goes to school, and he goes to school at 6, and I start work, and I usually work until he gets back, and then take the afternoons, and so I treat it like a job. I have a list of things I need to do that day, both writing and covers. And I found that was something my PA told me to do. He's like, you need to make yourself a checklist every day. 3 things. You have to accomplish 3 things. And that list always grows. But that has really trained me to be as productive as possible in a short amount of time. And then I do type quite fast. So
5,000 words a day is, I would love to do 5,000 words. I don't know if I probably have had a couple of days of 5,000, but I get 2,500 is a good day for me. So.
It's I type. Last time I did one of those typey tests, I think I was at 90 words per minute. I type pretty fast, and then another thing is I don't back edit. I don't edit until I'm done. So that actually makes a huge difference with word count for me, because then I'm focused on moving the story, and that's something that I've had to train myself to do. With an habit, if you've not used an Alpha Smart, like, oh my gosh, it'll drive you insane, but then you're addicted. To force you not to back at it and to just keep moving forward, because later you can, when you're done with it, then you can go back through and move this and add to this, but it just forces you to get it out. And you can't back at it, or you can, but it's very difficult. Do y'all know what an Alpha Smart is?
No, I was just going to ask you that.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll show you. So they are super old school, and they always freak people out because nobody knows what it is. When you take it out somewhere, people are like, what's that? This is an Alpha Smart. It is a full-sized keyboard. It runs on AA batteries. And I don't know if I can pull it up if you can actually see. It holds the equivalent of about, I only filled it up one time. It holds about 20,000 words-ish. But see, it'll only show you those 2 sentences, and then you keep going, and the only way to go back is to push the up arrow and then the down arrow back down, which is super frustrating. So you can't read back at what you've already written. You have to keep going. But then you just plug it into your computer, hit the send button, and boom, it puts it on a Word document. You can get them on Amazon, but I don't think you can get them new. They were a thing that were actually made for schools, and like most of them have a school sticker on the back. I think they were made for like keyboarding classes. But they run on AA's, and because their screen is like a calculator screen, those two AA's will last forever, and you can take it. It's super easy to take it anywhere. I work on, instead of having to do this on a plane while I'm trying to type, I can just because it's just one keyboard, and that's usually when people are like, what is that? In Korea, the local Koreans were mystified by it. I'm not sure I tried to explain what it was, but I'm not sure it it translated. And I was like, it's for writing books. It's for writing, you know, long documents. But yeah, I actually, one of my friends, Jennifer Bardsley, got one and was like, you guys have to get this. Is awesome because you can take it anywhere and you don't need a power outlet and you can't check Facebook on it, so you don't get distracted.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt about that. There's some have one as well.
They're awesome.
That's a great way to word that. That's I've never heard of one. I think I saw something on the 20 books to 50K. Someone said they mentioned that they're going to bring it to Vegas for the next conference in November, but I didn't look too much farther than that because I had no idea what they were. But so you wrote all your books on those things? On that?
Most of them.
Wow.
I do. So now that I have my office, I would rather sit in my office and work because I have my jams going. Usually lots of coffee, just so much coffee, and so I would prefer to do that. But since we are on the road a lot, and I have to use it quite a bit, so it's kind of been a lifesaver. I do type. And my editor hates it when I do this, but I do actually type a lot on my phone notes. And I did see, I believe it was Jennifer L. Armentrout was talking about how she does the same thing. And I'm guilty. I think I wrote most of Betrayer on my phone because we were moving and I didn't have my office. I didn't have, you know, I was standing in lines or waiting on this to happen. And so I didn't have money, but I still needed to get word count out. And so I did. I wrote a lot. Now, my editor hates it because of autocorrect. It will change things and there will be missing. She's like, I can tell when you've written it on your phone because there's missing words everywhere. Like, I'm sorry. I try to catch that when I do the read through before I send it back, but I don't know, my brain, you know, I can't edit to save my life. Like, I will never be an editor because I can't do it. I don't catch that. My brain will just fill in those gaps and move right along like it never happened. So,
I've heard of people that write on their phone, and you know, I'm a slow writer when I'm on a keyboard with these great big keys where I can actually see them. So when you're writing on the phone, you're writing like this? Like, I'm just trying to picture that. Wow.
Usually. I actually do it a lot because this happens to you. I don't know if this happens to you guys, but I always get, like, my characters talk to me a lot when I'm trying to go to bed. and I'm like, I will never remember that, so I'm just going to write it down. And then I end up writing a chapter, like, as I'm laying there in bed, and my husband's like, turn the light off. I'm like, you know, let me just get this out, and then I'm okay. But I'm always more productive at right before I go to bed, and which is so unfortunate because my day starts at 6 a.m. So I can't stay up late and work like I used to. I used to be able to crank out a book. I think I wrote Bad Magic is one of the longest books I've ever written. It's like 120,000 words. And I think I wrote it in 5 days because I was young. I was, you know, I didn't have kids. Husband was gone on TDY. So I would just, you know, order Indian takeout and I would just stay awake for 3 days and write a book. And can't do that anymore, man.
It's funny you say you were young then, because I can't like myself. It must be a generational thing because there's no way I'm going to write a book on a phone. You know, I can barely write a text message on a phone with these clumsy fingers of mine. They just, you know, thank goodness for autocorrect when it comes to people like me. But it's incredible that someone could actually write a book on that.
Rest assured, it is an act of desperation, not preference.
Wow.
I've taken notes on a phone and written scenes, but I can't imagine writing a whole book that way. But, you know, like you said, whatever you have to do to write it, you do. So I totally understand.
So that's a great way to make notes, because I don't know how many times I've laid in bed at night, like you say, and they talk to you, and it's such an awesome idea. I figured, there's no way I'm going to forget that. Like, it's just so monumental. I can't forget that. And I wake up in the morning, I haven't got a clue what I was thinking about, and I've lost it, and I will not get it back, and it's such a shame. So, yeah. But
dialogue, especially.
I just get out of bed and go into my office and get on the computer for 10 minutes and jot it down and get back to bed. But that's a good idea on the phone.
Yep.
So one of your pieces of advice to authors, maybe that would be, you know, don't self-edit. Is that one?
Some people are good at it. Yeah. Some people are good at it. I also think as a writers, we tend to be our own worst critics. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's good to get that. I have a, you know, now that I've been self-publishing a little bit, I have it broken down, and my PA, again, he was a fantastic guide showing me how to set this up as a business. He like, you need to outsource as many things as you can so that your job is to write. And that's it. And that was probably the best advice anyone has ever given me, because all of the other stuff will stress you out, and suck the joy right out of the writing, which should be the best part. And so I have a team of editors. I have a system. Like I have my first betas that will read it, tell me what they think. It's usually my super fans who are the ones that'll be like, this is weird, or, you know, you didn't get this right from 5 books ago, and we remember it because we've read them all so many times. And I'm like, okay, you know, no, but I'm so glad that they do. And then I will send it to my editor. I'm thankfully to the point now, and I think this kind of comes with experience and time, especially if you're writing books in the same world, like I have been with Dragonriders, where I don't need a developmental edit as often now. My brain is trained to the rhythm of a story, and I'm not a plotter or a pantser. I'm a sceneser. I plan out scenes, and then I just kind of swap around where I need. I've been told it's more like they're like your outlining is more like what people do when they're writing screenplays, and I'm like, really? Oh, okay. But that's kind of how, you know, I plan it all out. And so it's just, I don't know, it's been super helpful to have a team, because then I do what I call my filter, which is my I have a team, and I'm always looking for new members of the team, because I take different people that are from my fan base. And one of the perks of being in my fan club is you get to be on the beta team, and I divide them into 3 groups of 2 or 4 groups of 2, and I send it to team 1. They find any errors or anything, I fix it, send it to team 2. Find any errors, and so by the time you get to the end, book's pretty clean. Mm-hmm. And usually by the time I get to the end, I always say I have worked with these people enough now that I know what their strengths are and what they find. So I try to team up somebody who's good at finding story issues with somebody who's good at finding grammar issues or you know, copy edit type stuff. Excuse me. And it's worked out really well. And I highly recommend that approach, because it's way less stress, especially if you've got people who read fast. And I can't recommend homeschool moms enough, because they know all the grammar, and they know, because they've had to teach it, and you always know something better when you've taught it, right? They know all of that stuff. And so I have several homeschool moms, and they're some of my strongest editors. Yeah.
I love this from Margaret Pinard, a waterfall of beta readers, which is so true. And I was going to ask, thanks Margaret for saying that. I was going to ask, how do you balance the feedback that you're getting back with writing your next book? Do you have like days where you handle the feedback and edit, and then days where you write, or like, how do you work it out? It sounds like, you know, there's quite a lot of feedback.
I put them all in a group chat, and and it's the cone of silence. They know that they can talk about things in that group. They can ask questions to me. It's an open thing. No, you know, anything, talk about it at the book, you know, spoilers, all of that. But nothing leaves the group, like cone of silence. And I think they like that exclusive, you know, I'm in the know, I'm a part, you know, because it's fun. And I mean, can you imagine getting to be on a team like that? Like, for somebody super famous, I'm not famous, but somebody, I'm like, so it's fun, and they get to be a part of the process too. I introduced a new race, a new character of that race in this most recent, the Dragonrider book that's coming out in June. I'm super excited. This is my third fantasy series, and I have yet to use dwarves. And this, for the very first time, I'm bringing dwarves into Maldabar, and I'm super excited. I was a little bit nervous about it, but then I started getting the walls of capitals. They're like, oh my gosh, we love Garnet. She's awesome. And I'm like, yes. Because I was afraid. I've always been afraid to put the cliche fantasy stuff in stories. But you know, sometimes they're cliche for a reason, and people just love that stuff. And so I am a shamelessly huge D&D nerd, and so I love dwarves. Oh yeah. Do you see my Critical Role Funkos up there? I have Percy and Vex.
Nice.
Yes. So I wanted to add more, because initially it was just elves and humans, and I wanted to add in and broaden the world, and I really wanted to put dwarves in, and so I brought in the dwarven people, and going to keep adding more on, and I'm really excited. So I'm still doing them in clumps. I'm going to do the first 4 books of this series, take a summer break, and then do the next 3 or 4, and then take another break. And that way I don't get burned out. But the next 4, after this set, there's going to be pirates, and I'm really excited for Dragons and Pirates. Did y'all ever read the live ship books?
No.
Was that Robin Hobb? I think it was Robin Hobb who wrote the live ship books.
I haven't
they're so good, and such a unique take on dragons with pirate ships. Epic. Totally great. You need to read it. My mom was a big fantasy reader, and she was the one that was like, you have to read these books. And they were, she's like, loves Assassin's Apprentice, Fool's Errand, those type, books. So I'm pulling some inspiration from Robin Hobb's Mad Ship books, because I just loved that whole, seafaring pirates and dragons. They have these dragons that follow the ships because the ships are magic, and the more blood that's spilt on the decks, that it's absorbed into it, and the ship comes alive, and it has this relationship with the dragon that follows it. It's awesome. Yeah, it's a great.
I thought it was neat that you said that you didn't want to put dwarves in because you didn't want to follow the original tropes that everyone else does. I was the exact same way. I didn't have dwarves or elves, and I didn't even have dragons. Sorry, don't get mad at me. In my first couple books, but by book 3, a dragon just made its way into my fantasy, and that's been my staple ever since. It's been dragons, and all of a sudden, with the dragons came the dwarves, and now there's elves. And you're right, the readers love those things, and whether people say it's a fad or a trope or overused or whatever, it doesn't matter. That's what they like. So, I like writing about them, and dwarves are just so much fun to write about.
Yes.
Because they're kind of, they're rough and they're rude, and they can be anything. They can just be a fun character to write about.
Boisterous and loud, yeah.
Strong, and they're very loyal. So they're a great character to write about. So we're getting near the end of the show here, and I just before we say goodbye to you, I just so what is coming up next with what's your next release? You said you got something coming out in June, your Dragonrider book, and then what else is happening for Nicole Conway?
Let's see. I think I have the proof. I don't know if my headphone cord is long enough. Nope, it's not. Hang on. I always get print proofs before June. Successor comes out. Here's the print proof of Successor.
Nice.
I did. So I have an artist that does my covers for me, and he's outstanding. I do like to outsource when I can and just pay it forward. And his artwork is beautiful, and he really captures the vibe. So I always hire him for my Dragonrider books, and I'll probably try someone new for my next fantasy series. But so Successor comes out June 8th. I'm actually finishing up the last in my Spirits of Chaos books. I think that will come out probably sometime this fall or winter. And then I have the last Mad Magic book that's going to come out on Halloween.
Oh, nice. That's a nice. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. So Christie, what's new with you? Is there anything new this week? I know we're asking each other every week, so it doesn't always happen, but this is something new in the life of Christie Stratos.
There's only so much new, right? Yeah. No, I've been working on my more futuristic nanopunk work. So I'm about 65% through that one. That one's a novella. So, I had hoped that I was going to finish it by the end of April, but, other work gets in the way. There's not much you can do about that. But, I've been working on it steadily and it's working out nicely. So I am with the progress regardless. And, I have my next Victorian short story. The idea is already together, and I'm kind of gathering ideas for a totally different project that's going to also be Victorian, but something pretty different. I have not talked about that one yet. I'm still working it out. So yeah, more like draft stuff. The Nanopunk is second draft, and that'll be the final one. Mm-hmm. And then the other stuff is, first draft stuff. So that's pretty much what's been going on with me.
Awesome.
Am I the only one where springtime is like my busiest time? Like, I feel like the rest of the year I just kind of coast, and then spring it's just like they get crushed every spring.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. I feel like a lot of the year is crushed for me.
Where can we find your stuff, Nicole?
All of my books are available through Amazon. My trad books, the Spirits of Chaos, are available from any major retailer. All of my books are on Audible, and then that's about it. I'm Amazon exclusive for my Dragonrider books now, but they are all on Audible, and then Mad Magic and all of that is still, I think they're Amazon exclusive now too. So, yeah, but.
Okay, awesome. So thank you again for coming. And in Richard H. Stevens' Soul Forge universe, I just announced today that I have a release of book 1 in the Highcliffe Guardian series, Keeper of the Jewel, and it's going to be out on June 15th. So I'm very excited about it.
Two big releases in June. Both of your releases are in June, right? It's exciting.
600-page book. It's the biggest book I've written so far.
Wow,
so.
That's awesome. A beast.
Yeah,
wow.
It wasn't supposed to be that big. It just kept on going there. So, yeah, so I'm quite excited about that.
The anthology, I put together an omnibus of all 4 of my Dragonrider Chronicles books, and that was 700 pages, and you're like with one book.
Yeah. My books are normally around 400 pages, but this one just needed to be longer, and it wasn't meant that way. I figured it was going to come in about 115, 120,000. It came out to a little over 150,000. So yeah,
more to enjoy.
Yeah. So and next week we have our very first reader panel, and we're still looking for readers for this panel. I thought this panel would fill up pretty quick, and right now I think I've nailed down 3 of 4 readers, and we're still looking for a reader or 2. If anyone wants to be a reader on our reader panel next week, let yourself know, and we'll make it happen. So what the idea of the reader panel is we're going to have authors ask readers what they like about specific genres. So we're not just going to have fantasy readers or romance readers. We're going to try and get 4 different genre readers, and it'll allow the author a chance to pick the reader's brain. And what do you like? What don't you like? What do you want to see coming up in the future? And I think it might be kind of interesting to do.
Maybe I can recommend somebody then.
If you can, someone I'd appreciate it. That'd be great.
I think I probably can.
Great.
We have a fantasy reader right now and a romance reader. So if you can find a different genre reader than that would be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually think I can. That sounds really fun.
Yeah, just inbox. Yeah, I think so too. I think it's a great concept. I don't know whether we can actually get it off the ground. I thought this would fill up so quick, but once people hear it's a live, interactive.
Yeah.
Well, we're at the end of the school year. Things are getting.
Before we came on today, I was actually working with a lady in Scotland because she always tunes into my live reads on Friday night,
We need to have a D&D panel. We need to discuss Dungeons.
Yeah,
I did not know that you played, but that's epic.
I do, yes. I don't know if Christie plays D&D, though.
I don't, but that would be a very cool.
We'll have to get her into it.
If she's into the Victorian vibe, she could be a gunslinger. I could see that. We could do a Percival gunslinger.
Dark hair, she could be a sorceress too, I think.
There you go. Perfect.
So anyway, that's what's happening next week is a reader panel, and David Kelly was actually supposed to be our guest next week, and something's happened, but David Kelly will be with us on May 25th now. We've now booked him in for May 25th. So he's a science fiction author from Canada. So we're looking forward to that as well. So thank you again, Nicole, for joining us tonight. And if you ever want to appear on our show again with a book release or whatever, and you want to coincide it with that and come on and tell us all about it, we'd certainly love to have you back.
Sure, yeah, anytime.
So until next week, and our reader panel, and we'll see how that goes. I hope it goes well. I hope everybody has a very good week, and I hope everybody stays safe. Take care.